Hi there, my name is AndySwi, and I'm here to talk to you today about the project that I'm working on. And we are creating a game in Unity, and we're trying to do it in under a month. And so, the scope of the game, uh, we want to keep it relatively simple, but the task I want to talk to you today about how to create visual interest and make a boring prototype game look and feel as exciting as possible. So I'm going to bring you some real world tips on what the process is like. For those of you who have not done art before, for those of you who have never done any kind of art direction, for those of you out there who want to add colorful, exciting experiences in your game visually, but don't know how to do that, this is the video for you. So I hope this is helpful, and I'm just going to dive in here and show you my process and the process that myself and my partner have been working on, and kind of get into the nitty gritty and show you the tools that I'm using, so you can understand a little more about what it takes to take a very boring game visually and make it into something that is exciting and compelling. So again, here we are. This is the template that we started out with. It's called Sci-Fi Top-Down Game Template. You can buy it off the Unity Asset Store for $50. We started with this template, and just so you know, it was very limiting, but it had a lot of great stuff in it, and we decided to just see what would happen when we ran with it. And from what I've been told by Steven, my partner on this project, he said that he's basically rewritten all the code from scratch at this point, or basically from scratch at this point. So I'm not going to say that this template as is the best template, but I just want to show you our process and how we've gone about creating what we've created. So what we liked about this particular game template was that it came with weapons, it came with pickups, it came with doors that would open and close, and we were able to prototype something relatively quickly with characters. It had characters that would shoot. You could shoot enemies. It would walk around corners. It used the character like WASD. You had to control it and shoot. And Steven has since changed it to more if it's just like a click to walk and a click and shoot controller, because we felt that it was easier to play that way and more fun to play that way, more of like a Diablo style play. So you can see that this is a very basic looking thing. So it was my task to make this look exciting, right? And so how do you do that? Like, where do you begin? So let me show you. So this is where we started, and let me show you actually what our intro scene was starting to look like. So unfortunately I don't have the old prefabs they were real simple, real basic. This is where we ended up, but I'm going to kind of show you the step-by-step sort of layering that was done to get us to the end product, but I'm not going to show you the end product to the end because I don't want to spoil the surprise. All right, so the ground was very simple. It came with these characters that were interesting. I mean, these were cool characters actually. When you see them play, like they're not low quality. We wanted to create a different sort of backstory that didn't make any sense to have this robot guy running around as our main character. So we were going to have to change that. And the ground was very boring, and we had these levels like this that were just kind of boxes after boxes after boxes. So that might be fun for one level, but what do we do to make that exciting for 15 levels, right? This is not that compelling to look at over and over again. At least from trying to make a game fun from a visual standpoint. From a gameplay standpoint, there's still a lot here to work with, but from a visual standpoint, it was pretty dull. Okay, so what we decided to do very early on was to find lots of pre-existing assets that we could use, and having worked in this industry for longer than I like to say, that's a pretty common thing to do, and for many reasons. And and it has nothing to do with not trying to be genuine, but having to build assets from scratch is very time consuming, very expensive process. So if you have all the time in the world and you have all the money in the world to spend, and you really want to pixel by pixel make your game unique, um, that's great, but most of us don't have that luxury. Another thing to consider too is that a lot of the assets that exist on stores and in the asset store of Unity and other types of things are phenomenal. They're fantastic. They're made very well by experts in their craft. So to be a jack of all trades and say, hey, I'm going to design characters, I'm going to rig the characters, I'm going to texture the characters, I'm going to go into ZBrush, then into Substance Painter, then export them properly into Unity, as well as design levels, create lighting, is kind of it's a monumental feat that would take someone a very long time, so I don't recommend that. So let me show you my process. So first of all, I wanted to get inspired. What did I want our lab to look like? So I went online and I found a bunch of images that were inspiring to me, that I thought were interesting. And that's where I like to begin. I like to get inspired. I like to get excited about what I'm doing. So I went online and I found all kinds of visuals that I felt were suited for this project. So we quickly decided this wanted to be a high-tech laboratory that took place in the future, but didn't only just take in the future. It was sort of like a future where people didn't exist anymore, and the lab kind of took over itself and began to create creatures and enhance different creatures to sort of inhabit this environment. So it became dirty and filthy and disgusting and scary. That was really one of the big things, is we wanted to be scary and kind of like dark and dingy. So I was looking for things that inspired me along those lines to create the lighting, what kind of characters we wanted, what kind of villains we wanted, etc. So I spent a lot of time looking through all these different types of concept art pieces. So this one, remember this piece for later, because we're going to come back to this. You can see the cryo tube here. We wanted like this advanced laboratory to have creatures inside of these cryo tubes that some of them smash out and get you, right? Some of them are like in there sort of dead with skeleton, like they died in the cryo tube. Just things that were fun and interesting that helped tell the story in an exciting way. And so you can see where I was drawing reference from. This was a great piece. This was a very interesting piece, and I actually tried to copy some of the elements in here, and I'll show you that later, but they didn't quite work out from the top-down perspective of the angle of the camera of the game. So even though you might find something that works really well, sometimes you have to adjust it, and I'll get into that in a little bit. This is a really cool shot. I love the mood. I love the lighting. I love the darkness to it. So this is more like what the lab may have looked like before it turned into a scary lab. So I was looking for all sorts of things, all sorts of equipment, tools, elements. These desks, and I'll show you later, I ended up copying these little desks and building out these desks in 3D, like the monitors and the things on the table. This is another example of something that was interesting and cool that I was drawn to. So these particular boxes in the background with the plants in them, I also really liked this visual and ended up copying that. Remember, a famous saying is great artists steal. So if you see something you like, just use it. It's okay. That's what artists do. This I ended up copying. I haven't actually used this piece in the scene, but I did build it out in 3D. This was a really fun shot that sort of got me in the mood for what the place may have looked like new, and it was shiny and new. And this, I feel, is a nice, it's kind of like our characters walking around with a gun and there's scary things happening. I like that idea. This was just sort of lighting. I like the lighting here. I thought that worked really well. It really draws your eye and focuses it in and gives you sort of this nebulous sense of the unknown on either side of the character. This is phenomenal. I love this piece. This is just fantastic. I haven't able to really make this piece happen, but I haven't focused on it yet because there's been other things to do, but I want to get back to this at some point. Maybe when we go into deeper levels in the lab, because we're only on level 1 still. Um, this is a little more science fiction, fantasy, uh, but I love the colors. I love the reds and the blues. I love the juxtaposition of those two strong values. And you'll see that a lot in the level that we ended up creating, a lot of juxtapositions of red and blues to create contrast and mood. This is a nice, simple piece. This is really fun. I love that giant, whatever it is in the middle, that giant piece of machinery. And I love how there's a lot of interesting things to look at, yet my eye is still drawn to that middle element right there, and it's trying to tell me a story. This is really fun. The lighting here is really fun. I started playing with some really stark lighting at a certain point through the lighting development process, but what ended up happening is the shadows in the game from different angles became really intense, and it was actually hard to see what was going on beyond the focal point. So as my character started to run around in the corners, that strong lighting from a single source, the shadows of all the things in the environment it was really hard to see where I was going. So I had to kind of tone it back. You've seen that already. I really liked this idea of the broken out tubes where they were like something was being stored, and I really liked that idea. I also liked all the hanging cords. I'm a huge Alien and Prometheus fan when it comes to the visuals, so you can kind of see where I'm drawing my inspiration from. I like the dirtiness of this lab. So the idea is in our lab, the lab's been sitting empty for a long time with these creatures running around, nesting in the corners, building egg sacks in the ceiling, right? And so this was a great piece when I started to add grunge decals to the level. I think this is just beautiful artwork, and I just kept it because it was inspiring. It doesn't 100% relate, but it's similar. This is sort of where my lighting ends up, about like this. And the reason why I ended up making it a little bit lighter than too dark was because the player couldn't really see anything, and it was too dark. And unless you were in a dark room with a really bright monitor, you wouldn't be able to pick up all the details. So this was a good middle ground. And so ultimately, when you see the final piece, you'll see it ends up looking about like this. This was super inspiring. I love this work. This is phenomenal. And I actually tried to build a cryotube just like that. Again, the top-down perspective didn't lend itself to this specific solution, but there's echoes of this in the final work, and you'll see that. Again, this is great dirt around the bottom. Anyway, I'll kind of jump ahead. This is a beautiful and inspiring piece. I love this piece. This is phenomenal, and I haven't found a way to put this into the game yet, but I would like to near one of the end points of the game when you confront the actual AI machine. Like you could walk into a room like this, and there would be a big screen, and there would be the face of like the AI on a screen, like Max Headroom or something. And there would be like this giant control panel that sort of surrounds the character and makes you feel like you're being, it's coming in on you from all sides. That's really fun. And this was a very practical, this is from an actual game, and I thought this was a very practical application of lighting and all the types of things that we're talking about. And these were just pieces of finding little things that are inspiring, just how do I want to connect things together, little gizmos and gadgets I'm building for the level. How do I want to connect those pieces together? Bits of inspiration. And then again, more. Okay, so now we're getting to the point, and you can see here where I was beginning to do the first draft of the level. So let me go ahead and jump to that first draft. Okay. Okay, so here's the first draft. All right. So The walls here actually were not as developed in the original first draft, but since I've overwritten that specific asset, I can't really go back and show it to you, and that's fine. It wasn't that exciting. Um, but so pretend that these walls are just gray and not interesting. um, so this was the original first draft of the level where your character would enter here. I built these pieces of tile. These are from an asset kit, and I want to talk a little bit about that. So, again, finding existing three-dimensional objects and characters and things of that nature that complement what you're trying to do are critical for an indie project, in my opinion. Having worked on AAA titles and seeing the vast amount of energy that goes into creating all these little types of things, being able to find this stuff readily made on the asset store or in 3D is critical to the project. So what we ended up doing, if we look up Reactor, I'll show you how we did this. So if I go to Reactor, okay, one moment. So this is in the this project that we were able to download, and it was called Heavy Station Kit. Okay, and what this project came with was all these sorts of fun, unique little pieces. Here, I'll just kind of thumb through some of these so you can see how it came with a bunch of little doodads that we could use for our level, and that's super helpful. Let me show you some other stuff. So, lots of tubes and wires and objects that look like they belong in this environment. Boxes, you'll notice some of these boxes, you'll notice them around. I started planting them around the area. Little machinery pieces like this were from that kit, like whatever this is. Also these little funny objects, I was able to use them as elements in my scene. So I'm kind of mixing, my tile, because I really wanted a specific tile. I'm mixing my tile, and I upgraded the walls, like all these walls right here. So I took these into my 3D modeling program and into Substance Painter, and I made these specific and unique for what I wanted. And then I made the floor specific and unique for what I wanted. But then when it came to all the, I don't know what the best word to describe all these other pieces are, but just all the sort of the schmutz, the things that fill the environment to make it start to feel full. I was able to find all those in these asset packs, which is really, really helpful, because I didn't want to spend 6 months building all those little things. So lots of fun little pieces like this I was able to find in that particular kit. And you'll notice as we go through the game, I'm using this stuff like to its full advantage, as much as I possibly can, right? And so you'll see I'm starting to place it in areas. The other thing too is I was also working with Steven, designing the levels. And so we were building these levels out very quickly. It would take us just a few hours to place all these pieces and build out a level, right? And so, I mean, like right here, I could just show you, I could select all these and duplicate them, move them over, swap that out with a doorway, and now I have a new room. So we were able to iterate through these levels pretty quickly. Another thing we're experimenting with too was using lighting that had a lot of fog on it, because we wanted like a dark, sort of dingy looking environment. So I was also starting to play with the lighting at the same time. It's kind of a feeling it out, as we go. And then we would play through the level with we originally started with our character playing through the level, and then we decided that we didn't like the robot guy and we wanted to find other characters. So along that same note, we went and we found some characters that we liked, and we found this pack called Creature Mega Pack. Well, actually, Steven found this pack. I have to give him credit. He found most of these packs and introduced them to me, because sometimes, like, I think I'm so busy doing my own thing, wanting to create things from scratch, like I'm not actually looking out there in to see what other artists are doing sometimes, not realizing the wealth of existing assets that live out there. So we found he found this one um, character megapack, and I'll just go ahead and open up this scene and show you. Uh, so there's all these characters that it came with, and so we were like, great, let's use these as the villains, and we actually changed the story a little bit to make these guys fit into our universe, right? So in the story, we changed the story quite a few times, just trying to make it interesting, trying to find ways to give layering to it. These characters, not all of them worked for exactly what we wanted to do, but they were so well made. And I wish I knew off the top of my head the name of the guy who makes these, but these are spectacular. These are wonderful characters. So we found these characters. We ended up using this dog right here. We ended up using this character right here with the tail. This is our level 1 boss, and we use him. We use most of those are pretty much all the characters that we're using. I think I'm missing one, but so as an artist, I didn't really understand what was all involved in rigging the character to work with the specifics of how our animation was working, and apparently, from what I'm gathering from Steven, because he did all the actual changing the code to fit these, it wasn't an easy thing to do, but he was able to do it, and that really saved me weeks of work, just by being able to use these. And I think that's a great solution, in my opinion. That's a great solution, and I would encourage anyone making their own game to do that, if you find the right characters. I mean, it has to be the right fit, but these guys work really well in our environment. So another character that we found that I fell in love with the first time I saw him was this guy. So this character we actually bought from. We found him on a different store. We found him on the I think actually Sketchfab. We found him, and then we sent him through Mixamo, so he got all rigged up, and then we brought him back into Unity, and then apparently Steven had to make tons of changes to get him to work. But he works, okay, and that's the goal. So these are like these mutant guards, right, who are patrolling the areas. They're supposed to be keeping all these animals in their cages, but at the same time they're also like killing you, right? So they're kind of like fighting everybody, but they get caught in the crossfire, but still they're gonna attack you, and they're I think they're really fun, and they're really scary looking, and they're just absolutely wonderful. And then we had to deal with the task of who is our character. Who is our character going to be, the main character, and so again we had to really think through what our story was about and what we wanted to do. And so our character, I'll go ahead and open level B. It's opening right now. Our character was someone who was from this, who was going to come in here and kill everybody and shut down the computer in this sort of like post-apocalyptic world. Okay, so let me show you him. One moment while I going through a lot of scenes here, and they're all set up in their own unique way. Actually, I could just find him this way. Okay, here we go. Okay, so here's our character. So this particular character, we actually resorted, instead of building him from scratch, we actually resorted to Character Creator 3. And then there was an expansion pack where we were able to find all of his clothing. Okay, and the clothing is awesome. It really makes him look like he is from this post-apocalyptic world. So we were able to find, all of what we needed for him. We decided to go ahead and make him bald. because I'm bald and Steven's a little bald. So I don't know. We were drawn to him. He just kind of had a rough, rugged look to him. I guess razors are not hard to find in a post-apocalyptic world. And then also we made this female character here too. Um, here's this female character that we made, and she helps our protagonist. Sorry, I'm gonna get her out in the open. So she helps our protagonist by leading him. It's kind of like instead of having a tutorial, we have her as pointing the way, right? And so we wanted to keep our audience in mind, and we wanted to keep everything that would tell the story in mind as we were sort of coming up the story, finding what we needed to make the project. Another thing too, you'll noticing the scenery is, and all this beautiful environment here. This is a plugin that Steven turned us on to, a nature pack plugin. And then you'll notice also, if I go to this particular environment, so this is where we enter the laboratory, right? So a lot of these assets here, you'll notice these are things that I was able to find pieces of online, change them, update them, make them look presentable for our project, augment them in a way where we weren't just directly taking things, but we were making them our own and making them unique. And so this is actually the laboratory that our characters come running across and into to go down into the down into the levels of the lab below. So, but again, we wanted to make this quickly. We didn't want to spend 6 months making this project. So how do we do that quickly? And this is how you do it. But also we want to customize it, and we want to make it our own, and we want to make it special and unique too. And it has to say something. It has to tell a story. So we released one little video trailer a couple, I think it was about 20 days ago, and actually 1 second, and that was using this environment. And I was using this environment, and so we just wanted to see, here's some of our creatures down here that attack you, and we just wanted to see what the response was, and what we noticed right away is that it didn't feel compelling enough, right? And so we decided, well, we need to take it to that next level. We need to make it more interesting. And so what do we do to make it more interesting? So I went back to my concepts, right? All these, my idea board, sort of my vision board, right? And I was trying to find the things here that I thought would make it unique. And so I went in deep into these, and I was looking at objects like this one right here. And then I would go into my 3D program, and I would start to build them out, right? Unique objects that actually would, 1 second. I forgot the hotkey to make this full screen. 1 second, this is in the way. There we go. Okay. So I started building these from scratch, looking at those reference photos. These are tubes that we could put our characters in, right? The bad guys. I say bad guys because I have small children. Enemies. My kids are always like, the bad guys, when they play the game with me. So our villains would sit inside these like cryostasis chambers or whatever they are. And then I also wanted fans because I knew fans would give us a really fun lighting. Because we could put a light in here as this rotates. That would give it a really interesting, it's rotating all over the place. Would give it a really interesting feel, right? If a light's shining through that and it's like going woo, woo, woo. It's going to give us like a real fun kind of feel. And then I could put some dust coming out of that as well. These I ended up building, and I actually ended up texturing these, but I haven't found the right spot to put them in the level. I have some really fun particles that I want to put in the middle of them, like creating a universe or something like that. Here are the chairs. So I went ahead and built these chairs, these monitors, these desks, these things. I built these for the level, and then I built these sort of unique, interesting cryostasis tubes they actually don't look good and they don't work at all. Okay, so we didn't use any of these, and I was still trying to, because we have a top-down game. You're playing it from top down, so everything you see kind of looks at it from this angle. So just because you find a fun concept, this isn't the camera angle, right? So we got to think about that and how that works in with the player. So actually, and it was Steven's suggestion. He goes, well, why don't we just take these right here, and let's just, I don't think it's going to tilt properly, but hold on one second. So why don't we just lean them back, because we're going from top down, and figure out a way to rationalize that, and then we can see these creatures in the cryotubes. And I was like, yeah, that totally makes sense. Let's do that. So that's what we ended up doing. I rebuilt these objects. Let me see real quickly. So usually, just so you know, my workflow is I start with ideas, and then I pretty quickly model them out in 3D, and then I take them into Substance Painter, and then Substance Painter, I just throw a bunch of color on them. I throw a bunch of materials very quickly. It's arguing about a G4 setting, and that's fine. It doesn't really matter. Next, it's going to ask me to update the software, which I don't need to right now, so it's not a big deal. No, I don't want to update it right now. So let me open an existing file. Okay, so here was, I'll show it to you quickly. So ignore this piece that's striped, but here's the sideways cryo chamber tubes, right? So I was thinking, okay, because I was looking at this inspiration, right? So originally I started with this, but it's very clean. It doesn't feel like it's been lived in, So I was taking these sort of shapes, and then I was matching them to this kind of grunge, right? Like this place is like these creatures have been slithering around, and who knows what all of these machines for 40 years living in this underground bunker, like it's going to be disgusting, right? And so, 1 second, let's go back. So here we have the rust forming on the machine. Keep in mind, this is going to be darkly lit as well, so it doesn't have to look perfect. And also keep in mind too, like these objects are about this size in the scene as well. That's about accurate in the size. Our character runs around them at about the size. Think Diablo 2, Diablo 3, right? So it's about that size. So this was a good sort of start in terms of like making these things look worn. And this isn't a substance tutorial. This is just sort of like an art tutorial, if you will. I also want to show you too, we have these, go ahead and discard changes. So I also built, like I said, I built all those file cabinets, and then again, you see them pretty far away, right? You see them about that size, right? So they just had to look good at a distance. And something else too, like the lighting I'm using inside of Substance is not the lighting inside of Unity. It's quite different. And as many tutorials as I watch, I swear the values just change on you. It's not one-to-one. Subtle things, not big things, very, very subtle things. So you kind of have to do it kind of like, what I like to do is I have Max open, because I use Max, Maya, it doesn't matter what you use, Blender, it's all the same thing. Open, and then I'll have Substance open, and then I'll have Unity open all at the same time, and I'll start building something in 3D and unwrapping it, bringing it into Substance, bringing it into Unity, and seeing what it looks like, and then just kind of having those three things open, and I would just keep making changes or wherever I need to go to kind of finally come to what I like. Let's see if there's anything else cool to look at here. Oh yeah, here we go, the fan. Okay, so I ended up using the fan idea, but after experimenting with the fan a few times, right, where the fan made the most sense actually was on the floor itself, like an open shaft like this with light coming up and shooting out around the whole room. It worked the best, and there's a limit of how many lights I can use, so it just seemed to convey the mood the best after doing several experiments. So I ended up not going with this side fan, right? I ended up building a different fan, and the fan was just pointing straight up. And then, of course, this thing spins, and we have light and kind of these particles emanating out from the fan, and it creates this. We have this fun sound effect where it's like, right? So all those things kind of coming together are giving us the mood that we're looking for, right? That kind of like scary, claustrophobic, creepy but not horror vibe, more of like a sci-fi vibe, like a Prometheus kind of vibe, not a slasher vibe, right? So anyway, let's go ahead and open the latest version of level 1. So what you're going to see now is you're going to see the fully developed level after about three and a half weeks of work. All right. All right, so first thing you'll notice, right, is we have bright blues and reds, right? Right away. Going back to that one fantasy art piece that we talked about earlier. Yeah, this one, right? We have reds and blues. It does a real good job of just creating contrast and energy. So right here you'll see we have reds and blues. You'll see I've spent a lot of time playing with the lighting. So here are our creatures in our cryo tubes, all kind of leaning back. I'm not 100% done with these. They feel a bit naked still to me. The whiteness of the inside, and I'm deciding what to do. Here are our fans on the floor that spin. I'll turn off the lighting. Here are fans on the floor that spin. I found a bunch of these great skeletons that I stuck around the place. Also, you'll notice this heavy use of these decals. I'm a big fan of decals, as you can see. Here's a decal. So I wanted that grimy, grungy. Look. So again, going back to some of the concept art, because I was relying heavily on this concept art to really get me where I wanted to go. You see this grime. See that grime on the floor? And also see this kind of like scary kind of horror-ish vibe, but not. It's more of like sci-fi. So if we turn on our lights, so you see that starting to slowly come into play here. Okay. I also put these little like lab things. These lights are amazing. I think they're absolutely beautiful. These I found in one of those asset packs, and I just popped them right on in. So you can see how the visuals they were thought out in advance, but at the same time I'm using all means necessary to put it together in a reasonable amount of time, because we don't have 5 artists working on this. It's just me. So how do I get this done quickly and make it convincing and interesting to play? So something else, the last thing I want to talk about is the effects, right? So again, Steve's Rescue found this amazing effects pack. Effects are really important and critical, in my opinion, to making something feel. So here's an effect, right? It's great, right? So as this fan is spinning and as the light's swooshing around the room, there's like this noxious gas coming out of these things that make them look and feel like something you don't want to be around, okay? And also, I'm using all these kinds of effects in all sorts of places, like inside of these cryo tubes. I also have another effect. One second. Yeah, so I was trying to find something that felt like these guys were in cryostasis. It's not 100% there. I'm finding that last little thing that's gonna make that work. I'm still hunting for it. Our lights, our volume lights, you can see have this nice smokiness to them. I turned a lot of them down because they were getting a little too smoky. Let me see if I can find a good one. I think these are pretty smoky. Maybe if I turn off my lighting. Yeah, there we start to see the smoke a little more. I've really tuned it down because sometimes it kind of like distracts and it hides from the player. hides the player, or it just doesn't always work. So I kind of like to keep them subtle. And you'll notice here, like here's the effects. We have this nice smoke down here, and then I added this electricity down to the bottom of this area. So I'm starting to kind of like just come up with whatever looks and feels cool. I'm using these fun effects. I'm sticking with this sort of a certain look with the grunge and the lighting, and I'm finding really cool and interesting elements like this from other packs that I can use to build out this set. There's a lot of technical stuff that goes into this too, but that's not really what this video is about, and we can get into that another time. Again, you'll notice like you go from a red room to a blue room. You'll go from a tight little small area like this to a big area like this with like a giant vista, where off in the distance you'll see this machine with this pulsing, I don't know, something. It's just fun to look at, right? Fun is the key word here. So let's go ahead and just play the level really fast. We'll play part of the level, not the whole level. So here are two characters. They come in from the outside. There's Steven's put together this chat system that's kind of telling you what to do. So she's saying like, hey, the door's locked. You have to find a way to unlock them. You know, it's up to us to determine how to do that, right? Also, I added a bunch of really fun effects on the explosions of things. Oh, there's one of our enemies. Kill them, all right. Then also so these are little things, for now we're calling them essence for lack of a better word, and they're basically things you can grab to level up your health. I don't know if you remember these. I pointed these out as that they were like filled with green grass in one of those sort of concept pieces. So I lightly used the concept to come up with these boxes like an inspiration. Oh, see the effect of the lighting swirling through the room? I forgot to bring that up. I just think that's really fun. So then the grunge, the glowing lights, on the objects you can explode, the dark lighting. It's starting to feel like that concept art that I was passionate about creating something like it. I mean, it's not 100% obviously. And I'm going to take my own licenses, and it's going to be more like me. It's not going to be exactly like the concept work. But you can see how I'm narrowing in the vision to come to something that I feel is interesting and exciting to look at. So we're going to go through here. Steven's really done an amazing job making everything work and come together. It's fantastic what he's done here. It's really impressive, to be honest. So here's a pickup. This is supposed to be, I'm still working on the pickups. It's not done yet. Reloading. Oh, did I run out of bullets? Oh, there we go. I picked up my bullets. Again, so you can see I got some flickering lights. I have little lighting here on these skeletons. You know, I'm really working with that lighting. I'm really sucking every little bit I can out of the lighting to keep things looking dim and dark, but yet have little things to look at so it feels full. I think one of the biggest challenges, at least I had when I was an early artist, is I would make one thing and I would think, okay, that looks really good, but what people respond to is seeing like a smorgasbord of interesting things all over the place that really capture your imagination and bring you in, kind of like at Disneyland, right? There's not just one thing when you go through the Haunted Mansion, it's everywhere. And that really helps sort of get the character, or get the player in the mood, you know, or the viewer, even if it's a movie, the viewer in the mood. These pickups are not working. I can't tell what they are. That's supposed to be a bullet. Okay, I need to work on that. So as you can see, it's starting to get there, right? It's coming together. It's got that like, haunted machine. Oh, that's Steven chiming in. That's this like haunted machine. Um, and I'm gonna die. All right, 1 second. Sorry. Okay, so there you go. So the game is starting out. You can see how I'm working on the visuals, because if we go back to where it started, if we go to 1 second, I'm trying to find is it 2A underscore demo scene single player. This is what we started with, right? That's where we started. So you can see the process, the layering, the ideas that get us to something that feels more interesting, um, and sort of the methodology behind it. So anyway, I hope this is inspiring to you guys out there who are trying to figure out how to add more mood and more visual interest into your projects. And hey, we're going to be hopefully launching this game at some point in the near future. But we'd love your feedback. So if there's any questions you have or any suggestions, we're open to it. And we hope that you like what you saw. But if you think it's missing something, or if you think that there's something that could really add to the value of what we're doing, we'd love to hear your comments. Anyway, thanks a lot. I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.